As a responsible individual who has struggled hard to create your wealth, it's very important that you not only take care of your wealth in your lifetime, but also take some key decisions as to how your wealth needs to be determined after your time. Yes, this video is going to talk about estate planning. And what are we going to discuss here? We're going to talk about what is estate planning, what are the different ways in which one can plan their estate, and what are the criteria one needs to adopt to find the ideal choice of the methodology. Join me in discussing estate planning on this video. Now, estate planning is the methodology by which you preserve, manage your assets while you're alive and after your time as well, because it's hard earned and you want the asset to be put to a certain use, given to a certain person or for a charity. Whatever be your thoughts, it needs to get implemented, and the manner of doing that is known as estate planning. Now, what are the key considerations one must have in mind even while planning their estate plan? First up, how much of wealth do you have? Really important to understand the totality of wealth that you're talking about. It's important to take every little thing into account. Second, who are the heirs or the beneficiaries that you want this to pass on to, and in what quantum? Very, very important. Third, you must also have some idea of what is the people that you don't want to be part of this exercise, those you want to exclude from your estate in whatever form. It may be for whatever reason, but stating it upfront is important. What kind of assets you have? Is it in fixed asset form, in the form of buildings, land? Is it in the form of stocks, mutual funds, cash? What is the nature of your assets? If it's a business, what is your exit plan or succession plan? Both are equally important. And last but not the least, do you have somebody trustworthy that you can consider as an executor who will actually go by the word and spirit of what you want to be done in your absence and get that done? These are all very, very valid considerations one must have even while getting into the exercise of estate planning. Now, estate planning can be done in a variety of ways. One of the first ways that we would be looking at is by writing a will. Now, one can pass on one's assets to one's beneficiaries or heirs or the next of kith and kin through a simple document called will. Now, there is no complex procedure. A will is a simple document written in hand by yourself of sound mind and in good health. If you state that, it's good enough. As long as you're a major, you can make a will. It must be independently signed by two individuals who are not connected with you as a mark of independence. It can contain an executor's name, but it's not essential. If you don't name an executor in the document, then if it goes to court, court may appoint an executor, or any person may then request the court to be named as an executor to that will. So all that is possible. A will is essentially covers the distribution of assets that you want to your next of kith and kin. You can name them. The more specific you are, the less ambiguous it is later on. So make your intent very, very clear while writing the will. Consider all your assets. And if you have specific people you want to exclude, make that as well very, very explicit so that nobody is in doubt whether it is to be considered or not. Will is a great document. You can choose to register a will, but it's not mandatory. Registration gives the authenticity to the will, which otherwise is not available, but it's not, like I said, mandatory. In case the will is contested, then it has to get probated at the court. The court will give a legal sanction, a probate, post which it can be distributed as per the will. Now, if once you get a probate, then all the assets can be executed as per the will in the form that is mentioned in the document. So, in the event that the probate throws up a lack of consistency, then it gets contested in court and so on and so forth. So, that's the journey the will takes. The advantage of a will is it's a simple document. It can be easily done. It can be easily revised every 3 years or 5 years. As your assets go through change, as your mind goes through change, you can change that document quite easily. So that's the great advantage of a will. But the big disadvantage in will is that sometimes it doesn't comprehensively work even in your lifetime. Will actually takes into account, comes into play only after your time. Now, there are instances where one wants to kind of encircle all the assets in one place and make sure it is operating to the benefit of the family even one is alive. If that is the intent, then there are better options available than will. The option that is a slightly better option than will is what is called a trust. Now, trust is a little bit more cumbersome to set up, even more cumbersome to dismantle later on, but you can do it even when you're alive. And in case you have large assets, maybe running into tens of crores of rupees, a trust may be a good idea to look at, because you can encircle all the assets there. You can do a reasonable amount of tax planning while you do that, so that the assets of the trust work to the benefits of the beneficiaries mentioned there. Now, the trust basically is defined in the form of a trust deed. The trust deed contains the author of the trust, which is you, and it contains the beneficiaries, the persons for whom this trust is meant, and how they are to deal with the variety of assets can be mentioned as part of the trust deed. This can be held as a private trust because it has private beneficiaries instead of being a public trust. So, private trust is also a good alternative to creating a will. Like I said, the advantage is the trust comes to operation right away rather than waiting for after your time, and works better in terms of dispersing the cash flows of the trust for the purposes that you so desire. So lots of people, wealthy people, when they unlock their wealth, choose the trust route to go forth, so that there is a visibility and there is a certain pathway that they can create of how it operates, and they can see that operation even while they are alive rather than after their time. So trust is a good form of estate planning. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult to set it up. It's a lot more cumbersome to dismantle later on. So think about it multiple times. Take the advice of your auditor, take the advice of your financial advisor, but it's something that you can consider, especially if your assets are reasonably large and you want to ring fence your assets in some form to the benefit of your direct heirs or your immediate family, then this is a good route to consider. The third emerging route that we are finding a lot of people taking is what is called an LLC route. Limited liability company or limited liability partnership, as it's called, LLC, LLP. Now you can create an LLC with your private family members and make sure all the assets are held by the LLC. Now this is another way in which you can handle the transitions of some of these assets between yourself and the family members. So there will be 4 shareholders. If you are 2 of you who have all the holdings and then 2 of your children need to get it later, then an LLC could be structured in which all 4 of you are members of the LLC, and then once the asset is kept inside, then if on the demise of either you or your spouse, the assets will be held entirely by the LLC through their shareholdings. So to that extent, LLC operates a reasonably seamless way in which assets can be dealt with after your time, as long as you do a bit of paperwork immediately before. So LLC also comes into operation immediately. It kind of takes effect with immediate effect and can work to your advantage. So all these three routes are available: will, private trust and LLC. All these three are good options to consider depending on how you want to kind of manage your assets. More the assets, trust or an LLC would be a good idea. If you have a simple enough portfolio, then go with a will. It's a good idea. And make sure that whatever is the content of the will, you discuss with your near and dear family members, so that later on it doesn't create heartburn and issues as to what their expectation was and what actually happened. So to that extent, my advice to you would be to kind of keep your family members informed what to expect from your will. Do consider creating your estate plan. If you're above the age of 50, it's not a very bad idea.